the early ones, one of the originals. Was in the Azores. They got a bit stuck, needed a hand, and I got a telephone call. So here I am, day number 2. Sorry you missed day number 1. Day number 1 was quite busy, putting a few things back together, making sure the boat was safe and we could get from point A to point B. So here I am, crossing from the Azores to Gibraltar for the second time in less than a week and a half, and doing the same trip through the Med to Toulon, to exactly the same shipyard. So it'll be interesting to sort of have a little bit of a compare between the new 68, this older 62. So that gives away a little bit the age of this one. Quite different, very different bus. Some very noticeable differences in the ride already, and I'm only 24-30 hours into it. We've got a few more days of this. Gibraltar's gonna turn it on again for us, so the first 4 days are looking light, and the last day into Gibraltar we're looking at 25s, so it'll be a very good comparison between the two boats. See how the boats have evolved. Pretty cool boat. One of the things really noticeable is the cockpit saloon. Quite different in the 62. They've got everything in the middle, and you walk around it, and multiple entries down into the hulls. It's quite different from the 68. Not quite as good a use of space, but you know, it functions. The other thing that's very markedly different is the aft cockpit. Very much still a tub, not much overhang on the roof, which is definitely not a fan. I don't mind that you're in the tub, that's cool, a bit like our old boat actually, where there's quite a separation between the aft steps and the going on deck, so you're in the aft cockpit. It's not walk through. Yeah, it's quite cool. A lot of the aspects, but yeah, plenty of solar. Love how much solar we got. Nice new 3DI main. The breeze has just gone a bit soft on us, so we're motor sailing, unfortunately. We have been doing a fair bit of sailing up till now, but yeah, here we are motoring along. Nine, 10 knots in 11, 12 knots of wind. What do we got set up? We are double headed. So I've set up a big J0 and the J3 and full main. Boat going along nicely. Finally we could have this freeze and set up for the rest of the trip into Gib. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Should be able to cover some miles like this. It's looking good. Sun's about to go down. Another lovely day hanging out in the Atlantic. So we're on day 3 of the Azores back to France trip on the older Gunboat 62. And what's happened? Well, plenty's happened. Wind's gone up, wind's come down, lots of sail changes, reefs in and out last night. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty much same old, same old. Trying to race across as fast as we can before the breeze turns up off the Portuguese coast there and we get smacked going into Gibraltar. So it's been a day of rebuilding furlers in the middle of the ocean with whatever spare parts we have on the boat, so that's been fun. Yeah, other than that, we're double-headed. Yeah, got some gear up, J3 trinket and the J1, all black sails so you can't see much. Yeah, back on full main. See full main, there you go. And then we're doing what? 11, 12 knots in 13 knots of breeze with bursts over that a little bit. There we go. 11, 13. Where are we? 60 apparent. There you go, there's 12 knots. Yeah. On that, life's pretty chilled and relaxed. Let's go and have a look at the furler. There it is. My piece of art. So this was all mashed and bent, all the stainless steel stuff here. Yeah, all this fork here was all bent and mashed out of place. So yeah, a bit of a rebuild, and it looks like it'll work again. Yeah, but before I try and fit it to the boat, I'm going to go and get a little bit of snoozle because I've been up for a little while dealing with this thing. Yeah. Last night was pretty interesting too. It was pretty tame. Lots of 10 knots to 15 knots, a few waves kicking around, and yeah, wave state being quite nice and polite. But no, we might be able to outrun this one. We're sort of sitting in that teens, and we've got a bit of a black cloud coming down at us. Might be why we've got a bit of breeze at the moment. But if we don't happen to outrun that, we're going to have to make some changes to directions and sails. But hopefully we're all good. So yeah, here we are, watching the world go by. We're a day out from Gib with our current trajectory. If that that doesn't come and get us and upset our day. But, yeah, it's quite cool. We had a few surfs at 18 last night and this morning. Here's our view. We're still double-headed, trudging along, making do with what we got, and yeah, hopefully we'll be seeing Gibraltar and Morocco very shortly. Lots of green for go kiting, green not so good for go sailing, 20 to 25s. So we're just figuring out how far east we come before we hit the major Portuguese trades. And even in a nice big boat like this, you've still got to run with it because the waves affect you just like you do in your little boats. So the big question at the moment is how far do we get into these trades before we get to the 25 knots. Then we start heading south and running with it, keeping the waves sort of on our aft quarter, and trying to get in under the headland of the Portuguese coast here and into the flatter weather, where then we can deal with high breezes, no worries, because we're in flat water, just like the previous video we saw when we were sailing in 37 knots but the water was flat. So we got a little bit of wind. The waves are in the right direction, so you're gonna have a bit of fun hand steering. So I've been hand steering and learned something new about this boat, that the rudder blades are overbalanced, which is a little bit frightening when you're steering one-handed and doing 16-18 knots. And what's the issue with it being overbalanced? Well, what happens is, whilst the boat is going straight and the rudder's relatively straight ahead, it's fine. But as soon as you turn in one direction or the other, the rudder blade actually takes over and continues turning in that direction. And it's a little frightening, especially when you've got a bit of pace on. So, well, the helm is nice and light most of the time. When it comes to the crunch of it needing to do some high-speed steering around waves, it gets a little bit entertaining. Anyway, but it's all good, you know, cruising along. Lunch is being made. Everybody's happy. So we just put a reef in, and here come the numbers. Where's the 19 again? So, keeping it safe, put a reef in to settle down for the evening, and yeah, the thing's off like a scalded cat. Here we are, the reality of sailing boats across the Atlantic. Yeah, trusty old telephone with weather routing going on there. Good old predict wind as a backup, because, you know, never trust everything that you're not used to using. On top of that, check your radar. There's the radar, making sure everything's going good. Over here, we got our Adrena going. Sure, we're not gonna hit shit and that the wind is coming. So this is the morning of day 5, and it's a bit windier and lumpier and going fastier. There we go. Yippee-ki-yay! Got a good hum going on. Busted through waves, having fun. We're racing a boat, this little one here, but he's got a smaller advantage over us. It's like 300 meters long and 48 meters wide, and it's got a couple of 100,000 horsepower up his clacker. So he's doing 20s, while we can only surf at 20s. Yeah, so daytime, day 5, and we are well and truly back inside the med. No wind. Well, we had a couple of hours with some wind, but yeah, it's gone back to being the med. Very hazy and no wind. We had some dolphins, so that was cool. Always happy to see the dolphins. It's really interesting that the water's very green at the moment. Last week it was a lot bluer. Oh, another dolphin back? No. Yeah, it's noticeably green, the med at the moment. Well, certainly at this end. Normally this area is a bright, deep blue. Yeah, there's a picture, a really good picture that Anna has of Harry with his hands out of an escape hatch trying to touch a dolphin, and the color difference is very marked. Yeah, see if we can look over the front. Yeah, how well that comes out, but yeah, very green. Here it is, day 7. Pretty sure it's day 7. And it's not very windy. It's about as glassed out as you get. But I think there's actually something on the water because we've got 7 knots of wind at the moment. Well, we've got 7 knots at 30 meters up in the air. Lots and lots of motoring. Dodging fishing buoys. Move the watch system around a bit. So instead of having 2 people on watch, we're 1 person on watch. That gives us a nice 2 hours on and 6 hours off, which is very welcome. Lots of sleep. Got 10 to 12 knots of breeze, which is really nice. Turn the motors off, full main, J1, plodding along at 10 knots of boat speed, and everything is comfortable. Yeah, a bit of a glamour morning. We have a J1 doing its action. Through here, 103 degrees, 13, 14 knots. Woo, got some wind now. 100 degrees true, so just after our beam, doing 10 knots through the water, but that's not calibrated right. There you go. 10 knots over the ground. We got 65 degrees apparent. That's pretty much upwind for most lagoons and fountain Peugeots. Generating our own apparent wind. Heel is 2 degrees. Mast is rotated to 30 degrees. Glamour mainsail up there. having fun. Okay, so we've motored all the way across the Med. Then we are coming to my favourite place, the Gulf of Lyon, and at 8 o'clock tonight, guess what fires up? Ye old Mistral. So we have 35 knots on the corner here, about the same time we're supposed to arrive there. So we're going to go and run and hide. Run and hide, look at that. Lots and lots of don't go sailing. So, but it dissipates quite quickly. So this is 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, we're down to 20 knots again and a waning 20 knots. So it'll be very sailable by mid-morning tomorrow. So we're going to hide just north of Barcelona. Barcelona's here, and we're going to go to Metro, and there's actually a little bay a little bit further northeast. We'll see if we can hang out at, and just not get involved in that big patch of nastiness that was coming down. Ah, the joys of sailing in the Med. Look outside. Nothing. But in 6 hours, it's going to be a different story. What are we? Day 8, yeah? Day number 8, Azores to Toulon. We're nearly there. Yay! 8 days. Yeah, not bad. Yeah, we've been waiting this morning for some wind to die down in the Gulf of Lyon because it's been a little bit windy. But it's good. We're down to 21, 22 knots. Very manageable. And yeah, life on board is pretty relaxed. The pasta is cooking. The windows are fogging up. Yeah, we're watching all the ships go by. It's all fun and games. So hopefully by midnight tonight we'll be coming into the harbour in Toulon. Let's see. Everyone's favourite offshore when cruising cats, the freaking dinghy. So we've got a bit of a jury rig going on here, as you can probably see. Lines everywhere. We actually had a point of failure with there was a D-ring. Yeah, let's look. There it is. Broke and pulled out. Yeah, so it was a bolted D-ring eye thing. It broke. When it broke, the dinghy fell down a bit. Whoa. And then the dinghy was pressing on the steering bar, which made the steering hard, which then turned into, it's not so easy to drive the boat. It's all those one problem leads to a million other problems, which turns into a big problem. Thankfully it didn't turn into a big problem. Managed to sort of salvage it all, but it sort of compounds on my thoughts the same with the 68, that the dinghy davits just need to go that little bit further to capture the other side of the dinghy and have a couple of pad eyes so that we can run a safety loop around it, so even if something breaks in the main lifting structure, there's a sling around the whole dinghy to not let it fall. Now strangely enough, most other normal cruising boats have that. I'm not sure why they don't have them in the gunboats. But yeah, anyway, food for thought. So, last meal at sea. Azores to Toulon. Look at that! There's one big advantage to sailing with a bunch of French guys on a boat. The food is awesome. So, thundering away into Toulon. Breezes just over 20. We're sort of sitting around that 13, 14 knots. Had a couple of little surfs at 20 before, so it's all fun. Yeah, definitely at the limit of our J1, hence the beep beep. So, day finished. Here we are, finally made it to Toulon. There you go. Here's the view all around. There's the marina. Right. And today's last morning report is taken from up here. There's the boat down there. So final piece of the puzzle. Do a final rig check inspection. Make sure nothing was busted or broken up here, and that it's ready to go again, because the last thing you want is to do a passage and then before you go out again find out that something's going to fall off the mast. So yep, quick check, make sure everything's good, then get on a plane and go home. Yay!